Once upon a time, there lived a boy. This boy was the youngest of 4 children, born into a family who adored him and surrounded him with love. His teen years brought the normal teen trials, but also falling in with the wrong crowd and the beginnings of the twin demons of mental illness and addictions. This man reached his early 20s, hitting bottom, calling on his older sister in tears, pleading for help, taken in, given shelter, on the condition that he seek professional help. After 2 years in a full-time rehabilitation facility, emerging with hope. This boy, now a man, finding a job, finding a girlfriend, finding a home. But the twin demons kept whispering in his ears. They were insistent, and after only a few years of blessed stability, the bottom dropped out again, and this man lost his job, lost his girlfriend, lost his home. His family reached out again and again, seeking to help, to understand, to make that connection. This man wandered homeless for years until the night that he was found unconscious, lying at the side of a road. Unfortunately, for this story, there's no fairy tale ending. My brother, Alan, died on Mother's Day 11 years ago at the age of 37, after years of being homeless. Like many of us here today, the issue of homelessness has indeed touched my life in a most personal and profound way. We are, each of us, all through our lives, seeking shelter, be it emotional, spiritual, or physical. Some of us are luckier. We have those safety nets in place, ready to catch us when life doesn't turn out the way we planned. For others, the story of our life takes twists and turns that are not easy nor predictable, with little or safety net in sight. Each person who is without physical shelter in our country has their own story, each a different journey that brings them to be one of the statistics in the latest point-in-time survey that estimates a total of around 578,000 people without housing in our country. Yes, there are some common denominators, some common threads to many of the stories that you would hear. Income instability, increased cost of living, loss of employment, mental illness, addiction, relationships, home and family life changes. What safety nets do we as a society provide for such people? The majority of the people who are counted as homeless are classified as temporarily homeless, those who spend short periods of time sleeping in shelters or cars before they find a more permanent place to live. The remaining approximately 15% fall into the category of the chronically homeless, those who have either been continuously homeless for a year or those who have had 3 periods of homelessness in the span of 4 years. And many of these people are struggling with some form of disability. There are some bright lights, some glimmers of hope. In June 2010, the U.S. Interagency Council on Homelessness presented a plan called Opening Doors, a federal strategic plan to prevent, and I think this is a little optimistic, but end homelessness, to the Obama administration and Congress. This was the nation's first comprehensive strategy that included the concept of housing first as a best practice. Housing first is a model that was pioneered in Los Angeles way back in 1988, and it's based on the concept that a homeless individual or household's primary need is to obtain that stable, permanent housing. Historically, in contrast, many other programs have operated from a model of housing readiness. That is to say, an individual or a household must address other issues that have led to their homelessness prior to getting into a housing situation. The Housing First model, whether supported by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development or by coalitions of public and private entities, provides not just housing, but usually also includes an array of total case management services. The case management provides stability to those who are in these housing places. It allows for accountability, and it increases self-sufficiency. The housing in Housing First programs is permanent, there's no time limit on it, and it's affordable, meaning that in most cases, the tenants pay 30% of their income to live there. And this concept, although a bit slow to gain traction since 1988, has highly encouraging results. Whether you approach it with the philosophies such as our Unitarian Universalist principle of the inherent worth and dignity of each person, which leads to a basic right for each individual to have housing, or whether you view it purely through a financial cost-benefit analysis, Housing First seems to be a model that works. One statistic as an example. A person on LA's Skid Row costs 5 times as much as a person housed in a Housing First model due to higher costs for welfare services, jail time, hospitals, and paramedic support. Some bright lights, some glimmers of hope. Now, the number of individuals experiencing this chronic homelessness declined by 21%, or close to 23,000 people, between 2010 and 2014. But I was told this morning in the LA Times, there's an article saying that we're at a new spike in homelessness, and there are still hundreds of thousands of Americans still without homes. In some places, it's reaching a boiling point, including LA County, with near 35,000 people without homes, which is the second largest concentration in our nation. Recently, for the second time in 2 months, a homeless person, this man was inside a coffee shop in Venice Beach, brandishing a knife, and he was shot to death by LAPD officers. Residents and business owners in Venice Beach have been attacked and burglarized and threatened and harassed. There are these points of friction. In June, one of the LA City Councilmen said homelessness has reached severe crisis levels in Los Angeles. But although LA City Council's new homeless committee kicked off in June with members calling for the city to provide showers and restrooms and emergency shelter for those in need, a comprehensive plan for the homeless is not expected for another 6 months. And I don't mean to be a pessimist, but I wonder at the political will in Los Angeles based on pretty dismal past performance. Throughout the country, though, many are coming together in coalitions to provide housing first models and also to render the direct social service that is immediately needed by these populations, both the chronic homeless and those of a more transitory nature. And such is the story of the shower trailer and other actions in Goleta that Marty will share with us in a moment. Sometimes I wonder if my brother had been given housing and the proper supportive services, would his story have ended differently? It's hard to know, but I do know that we're not alone in this work that we do. We are stronger together, and each of us here today can play a part in helping those who are now currently struggling, seeking shelter from the storm. Amen.
I knew that it was coming, and she was worried about whether she was going to cry, and I cried. It really brings the story home. There are a lot of things that we try and do and look at, and it seems so difficult for us to be able to make a practical difference. And what I want to share with you is the practical difference that those of us at Live Oak, through our social justice ministry, is doing. So in about 8 minutes, we're going to go through those things that you see on the screen. And some of those you may know a little bit about, and some of them you may be surprised. And we're even going to touch on an housing first model, which is indeed our goal within the area. Next slide. Let's start with Live Oak became involved 28 years ago with Transition House. Let's not start at Transition House. Let's start with the homeless count. We did a homeless count similar to what Reverend Tamara was talking about. We did it here locally, and you can see that there were 4 of us that were particularly involved with this, and it gives you a little insight of the homeless in our area. And we're really fortunate. We have an area that we can make a difference in. So we wound up with a count of 144 in the county, 99 in the Goleta La Vista, where we focus our attention, 893 in Santa Barbara. So you can see it's a much different story and more challenging. Of these people, 38% are living in shelter, 34% in vehicles, and 16% in other. Before homeless, 54% of them lived in the county, 23% of them in the state, 22% other. Their average age, 43, the oldest, 83, 3/4 of them are male. Average years homeless, 5.5. Mental illness, 64% of them, 48% of them are severe. We will now do Transition House. This was an activity started back with Betts and others in the early days. It's been interesting trying to trace and understand it. But for 28 years, Live Oak has been providing meals to Transition House faithfully. In the last 15 of those years, Larry Bishop has been the man who has faithfully brought these programs together. They typically serve 20 parents and 40 children. You can see some of the pictures that were just taken in the last couple of days. There's a facility called Worth House and a A woman named Deborah Barnes came and spoke at the end of Doug Miller's talk here some months ago. There are some pictures of Worth House. It's a congregate care living facility, has 6 bedrooms, 4 baths, houses 11 people. It's a real challenge of how you can manage that many people in a small space. B. Hamlin has led our effort there, from taking the giant dining room table and sanding and painting it, to now is actively involved with interviewing the candidates that move into that facility. Once a month we have what we call meet and greet, and this is an activity that came out of an organization that HEAL created. Doug and Sandy Miller, who are with us today, were really the founders of that. And HEAL is sort of the oversight of all of these activities that we're talking about. So we get together once a month with a number of the homeless in the patio area at the community center, and we share stories and we share support, and it's a time of coming together to be together and to help one another. Next are the warming centers. We're involved with the warming center from the standpoint that we do the dinners there on Thursday nights when it's activated. It gets activated when it's either very cold or very wet. In the last year, it has not been activated, and so we have not been as active with that. It's now located at University Methodist Church, had been going around to other facilities. So this gives you an idea of sort of where are the activities that we're going to talk about next. The lower left is the University Methodist Church, where the warming center occurs. The top is Pescadero Lofts, Housing First activity that we'll be talking about. And the other two are where we bring the warming centers, Monday and Thursday. So you can see that they're near Isla Vista. They're in Isla Vista near UCSB. So now we get to Pescadero Lofts. This is a program that opened in December of 2014. 22 formerly homeless residents, 26 studios, I'm sorry, that was 32 residents, 26 studios, 6 one-bedroom. Average time on the streets of people that have been taken in, 15 years. Average age, 54. 9 of them are veterans. And this is, as Reverend Tamara described, they pay 30% of their income. The minimum is $30. So here I'll give you a little 7-second video of what it looks like. We're now moving into a program at Pescadero Lofts that we call Friends of Pescadero Lofts. They have a beautiful center for where one can gather and eat and share. We now at Live Oak are going to lead a pilot program for 2 months where we're going to do dinners and programs every Thursday for 2 months with other churches involved, but we will be coordinating those activities. It'll be somewhat similar to Transition House, with the exception that it will also include doing programs. The first event, we're going to get together and find out from them what are the activities that they would really like to have, karaoke or game night or football night or whatever. So now we come to the highlight of the day, Showers of Blessing. It was launched in November of 2014. We've so far provided 942 showers, 86% for men. There's 111 individuals who have partaken of that. The capital cost, $32,000 paid by Christ Lutheran and the Lutheran Fund from the sale of the University Religious Center. Operating cost, $28,000 a year. Current annualized number of showers, 2,000. Be introduced to you 2 of those that both utilize the shower and are active in supporting the shower, with Ada doing data processing and Damien doing other activities. So here's a little 2-minute video that'll take you.
So the idea came up of, why don't we see how we can do some showers? There isn't any space here for showers, and that doesn't serve the need because the people aren't necessarily here. They're in the local community. So how do you get out to the community? And that's where the idea of, okay, mobile showers.
Caring for homeless people is not a single church's responsibility, and no single group or person can address the whole problem. And since no one person can care for this community, everyone is responsible. Every community member, regardless of faith tradition.
Before a person goes into the shower, we have bins of clothes that they pick out, clothes that they recycle, and then they put their old clothes in this bag, and we tag them with their names, and then we take it home and wash them, so that next week they can come back and get their clothes washed, and then they take their old clothes again and put in the bag, and we continually recycle their clothes, and they get clean clothes every time they take a shower.
I was homeless myself at one time, and to be able to have a facility or service like this helped me get my life back on track and put my life in order again. And once I worked on myself, I was able to give back and help other people in the same situation. Now I'm the operations manager for the showers, and I could help. And it was God-driven. I mean, I prayed a lot about wanting to give back to the people that I once lived out with, you know, in the streets, and now I can give back and help them and show them that it can be done.
The homeless participants also have a lot to share about the showers.
I've been many places in the country, and there's, in each area, some things are hard to get, some things are easy to get. Here it's difficult to get a shower. So before this thing was here, you just had to try to meet somebody with an apartment or go all the way to Santa Barbara.
The families of St. Mark's Catholic Church host the trailer once a week and provide warm food to the homeless men and women. Pastor Ron Cox from Christ Lutheran shares the true objective of the ministry often. It's to change community attitudes, help the people with and end the scourge of homelessness. The issue of hygiene speaks to their perception of self-worth, being able to look for work, and community public health. They deserve so much more.
Dee and I have had the privilege of getting to know closely 5 of these individuals. And those are real life-changing experiences for us. Try and turn off my beeper. Our lives have changed as we've had the privilege of getting to know what it's really like to be homeless. And for the most part, we find that experience to be a great enrichment of our own lives. Other times, that as we share with them the struggles that they're going through, the struggle of not having money for food in any given day. And that extends for all of those that we're close to, days where there isn't money available. What's particularly fascinating, the commonality amongst those people that we've gotten to know most closely, is that they're committed and determined to make a positive difference in their lives. The 2 that are with us are a part of that. This is Richard, who we had hoped would be with us today. He wasn't able to make it. But we close on, why do we do these things? Why is Live Oak involved with this? And the answer is, because we care.
character, and he says in that book, the way we build character as individuals and institutions is how much we get involved with the most vulnerable in our society and work in areas where we'll never see the answer in our lifetime come to fruition. In other words, it's endless. And it's like being a drop in the bucket. But that's how character is developed, and I really appreciate what you've done as a congregation. You've really stepped up. And you've done things here in this congregation that I haven't seen done anywhere else. And that is you become personally involved in the lives of those going through hard times, even on a social basis. That just is not done. And so I want to thank you for that. You wrote, lit the flame that is to heal and illuminate the world. There are a lot of people today that's all the light they have. We might think that there might be a light at the end of the tunnel, but for many people, there is no tunnel, there is no light at the end of it because they're in a labyrinth. And the only thing they can get is a flicker of hope that comes from folks like you. And we thank you for that. We really appreciate it. We try to run this Showers of Blessing ministry on a shoestring. Pastor mentioned that nearly 600,000 people without homes in America. 22% of those are in the state of California. And as she mentioned, the highest concentration is in LA, the second is in San Francisco. And where are we on that corridor? We are right in the middle of that corridor. And so we see folks come and go. And one of the things that we try to do is to bring a flicker of hope and dignity. And this shower trailer has done that. We work on a very small budget. Sandy is our supply manager, and she goes out every Wednesday to the thrift stores when they have the $2 sales to get clothes. And we make our own cleaning agents and so on. We try to do everything we can on a basis. Many of our folks now are in transition. They're on a trajectory to housing, and that's the purpose of the shower trailer, is housing first, supportive housing. That's our goal. And so we sang a minute ago about being filled with loving kindness. And so as the baskets are passed, we pray that you will fill it with your loving kindness. Thank you very much for what you've done.